Hey everybody, thanks for joining me here again today. Today's video is on codependency, and I wanted to go over it because I was doing some research this weekend, doing some reading up and reminding myself of, the things that I suffered from my mom, and just doing some research so that way I can continue to grow and learn. And it's good to remind yourself, or even just learn about the things the behaviors that you develop as a result of being surrounded by narcissists. And codependency definitely is something that I absorbed, and I constantly have to work on. So what I'm going to do today is we're going to go over the 20 signs of codependency. I found this information on positivepsychology.com. I'm going to be leaving a link in the description below, so go ahead and open that up and follow along if you like. I'm going to be going through it and just relating specific ones on how I deal with that still, just so you have a better idea and you can relate it to your life. So here we go. Displaying fear of abandonment, confusing love and pity, having intimacy issues, denying one's own needs, thoughts, and feelings. So I'm going to stop here. So after reading those first four, definitely denying one's own needs. This is where I struggle maybe the most. I'm getting better at it, definitely through a lot of encouragement from therapy. Has helped. My therapist makes sure to help me recognize not being selfish, but self-aware of what I need. And practicing it. So I'm constantly working with my wife on expressing my opinions on something, my feelings on something. That's a tough one. From all the years of emotional and psychological abuse being around my mom, I just got used to not having an opinion at all. Because if I had one, it was usually just swatted down. Or she would just say, that's nice. But it didn't really matter what my opinion was. Hers was always going to win out. So I just got used to not having one. And I typically will default to, if I'm in a group setting with my coworkers or even just strangers, I will just kind of default to whatever anybody else's opinion is to avoid confrontation, just to avoid being let down. Because if I express my thoughts or feelings on something and they're not validated, then I shut down. So definitely working on that one. Here we go. Let's keep going. Feeling a need to always be in a relationship. So I'll stop right here. When I did start dating around 18 years old, I dated somebody for 2 years. We broke up. Within a month, I started dating somebody else, and we dated for probably 6 months, and then we broke up. And then 6 months after that, I met my wife, and we've been together ever since. I can't imagine what it's like not being in a relationship with somebody, and so you might be in that same predicament. Now, I hear this a lot. I've been talking to a lot of people, and that's the tricky part, is we want so desperately to be in a relationship. We do have a lot of love to give, partly because of these codependency reasons, but also just because we're human and we want to be close with somebody. The problem is, if you're like me, you attract a lot of narcissists into your life. I was born in September. I'm a Virgo. I've learned that that's instantly an attractive trait, just because of the type of people that we tend to be. But obviously it can be anybody. But if you attract narcissists into your life, whether it's your parents, your friends, then no doubt it's going to be the people that you choose to be intimate with. And that's a really frustrating cycle to be in, because you want to be in a relationship and share yourself with somebody, and then they just abuse you. And then you get stuck in that cycle of, how do I break off an abusive relationship? And then if you do have the strength and courage to do so, when do you get into the next relationship? So obviously a very tough one, but I encourage you not to lose hope. Feeling a need to be liked by everyone. Yes. Fixating on mistakes. Absolutely. I beat myself up constantly over small mistakes. Usually big mistakes, not so much, but the small mistakes are the ones that usually nag at me the most. Having trouble communicating honestly. So this one kind of goes back to denying one's own thoughts and feelings a little bit, but absolutely. You know, I was trained with my mom to say whatever I needed to say just to make sure the conversation could end. So instead of saying what I actually feel, I will just say what I think somebody wants to hear, so that way they can either be happy or leave me alone. So not very healthy, because you have a right to express yourself and you do have an opinion and it should be valued. If not by anybody else, at least by yourself. So I'm working on that one. Communicating honestly. Having a need for control, especially over others. This one I don't have a tremendous amount of, but my wife definitely does, and she will attest to that. She definitely, goes through maybe not, I'll just say, nitpicking, micromanaging, just feeling like she needs to be in control. And that's a little bit linked to also she has diagnosed OCD, so obsessive compulsive disorder. Feeling compelled to take care of people, definitely. Showing emotional reactivity, anger. I think I've talked about my anger before, and it can be any emotion, but quick to anger is mine. Having poor boundaries. Having a hard time saying no. Oh my gosh. My whole life. So, specifically, I'll just say, when I was working in a law firm, my boss treated me like an executive assistant, even though I was not. I worked at a law firm to do paralegal type work. In addition to that, I would wash her car, watch her dogs, pick up her daughter from school, pick up lunch for the office, bring in donuts in the morning. I did everything for her because if she asked me to do it, I just said yes. I didn't know how to say no. That was so difficult for me, learning how to say no. Still a challenge, but easier now because I've worked on communicating honestly, not denying my own needs. Don't say yes to everything. You'll drive yourself crazy. You can't absorb all of that. Low emotional expressivity. So, something, I'm going to be doing another video here. I'm going to be doing another video where I talk about gray rock technique when dealing with narcissists, okay? So I'm going to be doing that video next, so stay tuned for that one. But that's what this is here, low emotional expressivity, just kind of not being able to open up and let people know how you're feeling. You just kind of sit there and you just whatever. Gray rock technique is, we'll go over that in the next video, making yourself unappealing and unattractive for the narcissist. It's a defense mechanism. But what can happen over time, and I'll go into it, is that you get stuck there permanently. Stress, anxiety, depression, right? I think all of us deal with at least one, if not all three of these things. My stress and anxiety caused me to have food addiction. And when I didn't have food addiction and I went to lose weight, I feel like I had an exercise addiction. I lost too much weight too fast. I have extra skin. I know, poor me, but still, I then when I was out of my exercise, it transitioned to smoking weed, and then it went to alcohol, and then it so on and so forth. I mean, stress, anxiety, depression drives so much of our behavior, and this codependency thrives on us having these things. We get stuck in it, and it's just so cyclical, and it's so hard to get out of. Familial dysfunction, obviously. Low levels of narcissism and low self-esteem. So let me go back to low levels of narcissism. If you didn't see my other video, The Root, that's where I talk about that specifically, which was my own narcissism starting to surface. And because I'm surrounded by it all the time, you start to just pick up the traits. My mom picked them up from her dad and then transferred them to me, and then I started to do it to my wife. And I do it, I need to say this carefully, I'm seeing myself do it to my 2 boys. Not all the time, but it comes up often enough that, man, I'll do the stare, right? My mom used to do the stare where it's like she says nothing, but I know what's coming. And when my son starts doing something, I'll catch myself staring him down. Oh, it's hard. I usually am able to back myself out of it, but I've managed to not do it to my wife so much because she's an intelligent person. And I'm not saying my kids aren't, but my son's only 3 and my youngest is 1. It's very difficult to not let these bad habits of narcissism slip into my parenting. It's something I'm becoming increasingly aware of, and I caution you to not let yourself slip. You have a choice. If you're aware of it, you're already a step ahead. Don't let yourself slip. So that's where we're at. These 20 signs really help me remind myself that this is where I came from. This is what I was exposed to. And so I deal with a number of these things, but I can work on all of them just by being aware. So go through it. This article is fantastic. It has additional resources as well in the article. Quizzes you can take if you still have questions about it, books that they recommend, and just breaks down different levels of this in terms of, for me specifically, there's a section about codependency and parenting and the risks of that. So check it out. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, like the video for me, subscribe if you want to watch all my additional content, because like I said, I'm going to be uploading some more videos later. Thanks for being here today. Oh, and if you have anything additional to this that you can think of, or if you would just like to share in the comment section, obviously I'd love to hear it and be a help in any way I can. Thanks so much for being here today, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.